to join. Hi. Hello. Hey guys, I'm a little bit early, so I'm just gonna wait probably like 3 minutes for people to join. Hello, Daniel. Some of these stories are really good today. Hi. Hello, hello. Hey guys. Lance said, can we take a moment to share a laugh at Chris Cuomo's expense? Yes, we can. That's what we're going to start with today. This is so funny. Hallelujah. There is justice. Hello from Hershey, Pennsylvania. I am very familiar with Hershey, Pennsylvania. So my family is originally from Pennsylvania, like my mom and my dad. And I spent a lot of time growing up in Hershey. Hershey's chocolate, Hershey's chocolate. It's the Hershey's chocolate world. Isn't that what it is? My first concert was at Hershey Stadium. My friend, I had a really good friend. Hello from Chile. Oh, hi. I had a really good friend that worked at Hershey Park, and I would go up to Pennsylvania every summer, and I grew up in Grantville, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a very, very beautiful state. It doesn't get, I feel like it doesn't get as much attention as it should. It's a very beautiful state. Hershey's chocolate is garbage. No, I love Hershey's chocolate, but they don't actually make chocolate in Hershey anymore, is what I heard. So my friend that I used to stay with for a few weeks every summer, she worked at Hershey Park at the subway in Hershey Park. She was a sandwich artist. And hello, Northwest Ohio. And we would go and we would spend all day there. We would be there right until they closed, which was the best time because the park would empty out right around closing time. So we just got to go on the roller coasters like over and over and over again. Okay, let's get started. They still make chocolate here. They do? I heard they didn't. I'll have to look that up later. So, Chris Cuomo. Okay, so we'll start with Chris Cuomo. I want to talk about what happened in Beverly Hills. This was really sad. And again, is just another tragedy of just super progressive policies and our progressive DA. So we'll get into that. And then I want to talk about, so there was a video released in the Jussie Smollett trial today. And then tomorrow, if you join, we'll go in and talk about the Ghislaine Maxwell trial because there's a lot going on. But I wanted to talk about these things. I had to talk about Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo is probably, I don't know, it's between Chris Cuomo, Joy Reid, and Don Lemon. That I don't know who I dislike more. I will say I actually find Joy Reid very funny. I just think she's so off the deep end. She makes me laugh. But Chris Cuomo is just, he just seems like a big jerk in real life. Just huge propagandist. And he was suspended. By the way, his suspension, nice 73 degree. Oh, 73 degree. I actually, since it was the first day, it's really hot in here, but since it was the first day of Halloween, since it was the first day of December, I was going to be festive, but it's actually kind of hot. Aren't these funny? I just like them all. Oh, Brian Stelter. Oh, that's another one. Potato Head, Brian Stelter. So, I do think this is justice, but is it really justice? Because I feel like, I don't know if you saw earlier too, there was a video released at by Project Veritas earlier today, and it was some like undercover video of some employees at CNN, and they were saying that even in employees at CNN, hi Nightmare, even employees at CNN, they cannot stand Chris Cuomo. So are they going to get him out and then bring someone worse in? I don't know. Kind of like Twitter. But at first, the news of Jack Dorsey resigning from Twitter was like, yay. And then they had someone even more radical that they switched him out with. So we'll see what happens with Chris Cuomo. But the thing about CNN and across the board, everyone knows that CNN is just filled with propaganda. Worse than, at least when you get suspended, he'll be back in like 2 months. Jeffrey Toobin, anyone? Yeah, and that's the thing too. So he's suspended right now, which basically means he's getting a paid vacation. So will he get fired? Will he come back? Will they just kind of move on with the news cycle, hope that everyone forgets about it, and then he comes back in a few months or a few weeks and he gives sort of a half-assed apology, and then we all just forget about it, just like Jeffrey Toobin. Here's the thing you have to understand about Jeffrey Toobin. When he did the business, this was on a Zoom call, and he knew that he was still in the Zoom call. He just thought his camera was off. So he was sitting there doing that while he's looking at the faces of his fellow employees or his coworkers. And that's one detail that should be known about that. Yes, he thought his camera was off, but it's not like Lubin the Tubin. I saw that on Timcast. But again, like they said on Timcast, it's not like, oops, I just fell and then I started doing this to myself. It was like he thought his camera was off and he knew that they were still talking. They were still in this meeting and he was still involved in this meeting and he did the thing. And another point that Timcast made is like, imagine being a female employee at CNN and having to see him in like the break room getting a cup of coffee. Like that is just so uncomfortable, and it just goes to show you the type of network that CNN is. And by the way, CNN is supposed to be one of those super, is supposed to be your trusted news source, and they're supposed to be on the side of women and Me Too, and that's what gets me about all of these people. It is so utterly hypocritical, and the ones that shame and virtue signal the most are typically the ones that in real life are their worst people. Lance said regarding Tubin, you couldn't wait, bro. I mean, right? That is so ew. And the meeting was still up. He just thought that his camera was off. So it's not like he closed out of the meeting or something. The meeting was still going on and he just thought it was Chris was too close to his brother. That's exactly what happened. And the same thing about Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, that's Chris Cuomo's brother. He did eventually resign, but in my opinion, he should have had to resign with the whole nursing home scandal, but it took this other scandal to come up to finally get him to resign and to get them to actually cover it. They never covered the nursing home scandal. So this is when Governor Cuomo forced nursing homes to take in infected patients, which keep in mind, they had other resources. They had, I can't remember if it was the Mercy or the Comfort, but it was those huge Navy, basically they're like, it's like a hospital ship. But they forced the nursing homes who are not equipped to deal with that level of infectious diseases, he forced them to take infected patients and caused a huge outbreak and then tried to cover up the numbers. So in my opinion, he should have had to resign over that. But CNN never covered this. Cuomo, his brother, never covered this. They were finally forced to cover this scandal because I think it just got so big that they couldn't deny it. And you even had Chris Cuomo, he got on camera saying, USS Comfort, yeah, cool ship. I got to visit during a fleet week. That's really cool. Okay, then California, we had the Mercy. But that ship was never used. So they had this resource right there. It was never used. It was not a good decision. And back in Florida with DeSantis, he did not allow the nursing homes to take infected patients, and they didn't have the same breakout with that age group as Cuomo did, or as they did in New York City. Yet DeSantis is the one that gets demonized by the news, even though he protected a lot more people than Governor Cuomo did in New York. So again, in my opinion, he should have had to resign over that, but that was kind of swept under the rug. I just saw on Newsmax crawl that another Dem congressman, I didn't get to read the rest of that, but let's look at what happened. So basically, okay, the star CNN anchor Chris Cuomo was suspended indefinitely by the network on Tuesday after new details emerged about his efforts to assist his brother. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, he was still on air last night. Let me know if I'm wrong about that, but I know for sure he was on air Monday night. Yeah, and that's the thing with CNN. Diamond just said CNN is propaganda. Right. And there's, point of view journalism. This is another thing that I saw on Timcast. I saw this original sketch, but Ryan Long, he does a lot of comedic sketches. I highly recommend finding his videos on YouTube. He said, I think that we need to start calling CNN, we need to stop calling them journalists, the journalists on CNN, and we need to just call them content creators. He was like, let's just call them all content creators because they don't actually do journalism. And Ryan was even saying, the funny thing is, if you called right-wing people content creators, they would just laugh. But if you called left-wing people content creators, they would get so mad. So we're gonna jump on this bandwagon, and we're just gonna refer to all of the journalists on CNN as content creators because they don't do actual journalists. They just create content on TV. And that's the thing about CNN is like, when you watch Fox News, you're getting right-leaning news coverage. When you watch MSNBC, you're getting left-wing news coverage. But CNN is supposed to be the trusted news network. And before I started doing my research, that's what I thought. I thought that when I was watching CNN, I was getting middle of the road objective news, and that's not where you're getting. But the beauty is, a lot of people know this, and I know I'm going to bring up something that's completely out of left field, but I like pop culture as well, and I've followed the Free Britney movement, Britney Spears. And what was really fascinating to me about the Free Britney movement is because it seemed like the team that wanted to keep her in the conservatorship had a hold on the media, so they controlled the media narrative. Britney never got to speak for herself, so there was this whole media narrative around Britney Spears that she is happy in this conservatorship, that she wants to be in this conservatorship, and there's nothing wrong. But they smeared. So the Free Britney kids at the very beginning were smeared by news outlets for being conspiracy theorists. But what they were doing is they were going and finding actual court documents, and the court documents were saying something different than what the news was saying. So that's how a lot of this came to mind. And there are several people in this Free Britney movement, and this is where I'll bring it back to CNN, and so they're using the same language that we use. They say fake news CNN. They do not like CNN. There were some people that were really high up in this Free Britney movement that CNN wanted to do coverage on. So there was an anchor or a journalist or a content creator, I can't remember what her name was, that interviewed a bunch of these Free Britney people, and they were really smart and they knew exactly what she was doing. They said she had a clear agenda. She didn't want to hear what we said, and she was going to take what we said out of context. So they actually filmed the interview themselves as well and put it out and said the truth about the entire special and the truth about what CNN was doing. CNN was attempting to run propaganda on this whole Britney thing. So I think do you have Patreon? I'm going to be setting one up very soon. And I would like either Patreon or on Locals. I might feel a little bit, you are really good. What is your background? Oh gosh, my background has nothing. I'll get into that soon. I have kind of a wild background. what was I saying? Oh, either on Locals or Patreon, because I would like something where I can speak a little more freely. And I feel maybe a little bit more comfortable doing that on Locals, but both are very similar. They both have sort of a subscription based where you can do Real Women Wear Camo. I didn't mean to. I was gonna Real Women Wear PJs. I was gonna wear my festive elf PJs in lieu of December 1st, but it's really hot in here. And then I talk and it gets really hot. So I just think it's really interesting how these different, and all of these Free Britney people, oh, but yes, I will be setting up either Patreon or on Local, so I'll get back. I have a page, but I don't have it set up to where if you sign up for a membership, there's anything for you, and I want to make sure I have content if you're paying to see it. But it's just really interesting to me how these Free Britney people, they really understand how the news will spin things. And also, so I was following this whole Astroworld thing as well. And a lot of the kids that went to this Astroworld concert, they saw the hypocrisy on how, I've talked about this before, but they saw the hypocrisy. So right before Astroworld happened, and this was the concert where the rapper Travis Scott was performing, and unfortunately I think it's 9 or 10 people passed away, but there was a huge stampede and things like that, and people passed away. And when you uncover Travis Scott's rhetoric, he encourages people to rage, he encourages them to get hurt, he encourages them his fans not to listen to security, and he encourages them to jump over barricades. And that's a lot of the things that unfortunately led to that tragedy. So a lot of these Travis Scott kids, they're like, that's messed up, because right before this happened, we had the Dave Chappelle controversy where they were saying that his jokes were hate speech and they incited violence. And they were like, okay, so here you are, the entire media slams Dave Chappelle, saying that his speech incites violence, and then you have this person who actually incites violence, and people actually got hurt, and you give him this special treatment. So a lot of young people are really waking up to how the news cycle works, who's in control, and that a lot of these outlets have an agenda, and they will mold the story to fit their agenda. And the more and more and more I've been making these videos, the more and more I read, I can even pick out specific language, and I'll know right away exactly what a news story is attempting to do by how they'll use certain words or not use certain words. It's really interesting. But Travis is being sued for $2 billion, though. The media hates him. He is being sued for $2 billion. Yeah, I think that's, I'm keeping up with that too. I think that's really interesting. But let's look at what's going on with Chris Cuomo right now. Okay, so he is suspended indefinitely from CNN as of Tuesday, after new details emerged about his efforts to assist his brother Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York, as he faced a cascade of harassment accusations that led to the governor's resignation. Chris Cuomo had previously apologized for advising Andrew Cuomo's senior political aides, a breach of traditional barriers between journalists and lawmakers. But thousands of pages of evidence released on Monday by the New York Attorney General Letitia James revealed that the anchor's role had been even more intimate and involved than previously known. The documents, which were not privy to before their public release, raise serious questions. When Chris admitted to us that he had offered advice to his brother's staff, he broke our rules, and we acknowledged that publicly. But we also appreciated the unique position he was and understood the need to put family first and job second. However, these documents point to a greater level of involvement in his brother's efforts than we previously knew. And you have to admit, in a way, of course you're going to want to help your sibling, and of course you're going to want to maybe give them advice, but it gets worse. As a result, we have suspended Chris indefinitely, pending further evaluation. Okay, so Mr. Cuomo's entanglement with the last 18 months of his brother's governorship has proved a slow-moving headache for CNN, which has stood by its top-rated anchor even as a drip of uncomfortable revelations raised questions about the network's adherence to journalistic standards. Oh, really? It's just now raising questions? Jeff Zucker, CNN's president, supported Mr. Cuomo for months, declining to discipline him even after reports showed that the anchor had participated in strategy sessions with his brother's political team, a breach of basic proportional conduct. Earlier this year, the network floated the idea that Mr. Cuomo, that he could take a temporary leave if he wanted to focus more formally in aiding his brother's defense. Wow, so they actually said if you want to help your brother, you can have some time off and do that and then come back. In scores of emails and text messages between Mr. Cuomo, his brother's inner circle, he repeatedly offered advice. Please let me help with the prep, he texted a senior aide in March. So that's one of Andrew Cuomo's senior aides. And made efforts to track down the status of pending articles at other news outlets, including Politico and The New Yorker, that cornered allegations of harassment by Andrew Cuomo. At one point, the governor's top aide, Melissa DeRosa, asked the anchor if he could check his sources about a rumor that Politico was working on an article that included additional accusations on it. Chris responded. Now, this is where it gets really bad. Mr. James' report also included a text from Mr. Cuomo to Ms. DeRosa sent a few days after a woman, Anna Roach, I don't know how to say her name, I apologize, that Andrew Cuomo made an unwanted advance toward her. I have a lead on the wedding girl. Whoa, the anchor wrote in a text. So he was kind of like stalking some of these girls, making allegations and trying to get information on him is basically what happens. So that's where it went to a whole nother level, in my opinion, is when he started trying to get information on the girls. For months, some journalists in the CNN newsroom have expressed bewilderment that Mr. Cuomo's actions and the lack of discipline that he faced from the network. Several employees said in interviews on Tuesday that Ms. James' new report only deepened their unease, so other people at CNN knew about this. All requested anonymity to avoid antagonizing management, but at least one prominent anchor put his concerns on the record this year. In May, wow, I didn't know this. In May, Jake Tapper told the Times that Mr. Cuomo's actions had put us in a bad spot. I cannot imagine a world which anyone in journalism thinks that this was appropriate. I certainly understand the love that Chris has for his brother, and I have a brother and I get it, but that was not a fun day. Interesting. A monologue delivered by Mr. Cuomo on his show on August 16th has also drawn scrutiny in light of Ms. James' report this week. And this was a part of his monologue. I'm not an advisor, I'm a brother. I've never attacked nor encouraged anyone to attack any woman who came forward. I never made calls to the press about my brother's situation. Well, but the testimony and text messages released this week suggested that Mr. Cuomo did reach out to other journalists. Bad news bears. When asked, I would reach out to sources, other journalists, to see if they had heard anybody else coming out, he told investigators. According to the documents, Ms. DeRosa texted Mr. Cuomo in mid-March to ask if he knew the status of an article about his brother. Okay, we already know that. I don't know if you all remember also, and this is another thing that should have been a really big deal, but it just kind of went away. Back in the earlier days of the pandemic, Chris Cuomo allegedly, I don't know if it was true or not now, maybe he did, but either way, it's bad, allegedly came down with the virus and self-quarantined in the basement of his home for however long he needed to be. And he was doing his show from the basement of his home. Well, while he still had it, while he was supposed to be quarantined, while he was telling his audience that he was quarantined, he was spotted out with his family, no mask on, no social distancing, and was basically called out for it. And CNN never said anything about it. They just continued with the show. They continued with this thing that with this story that he was quarantining in his basement. And they even did this dramatic, like, reveal where he walks up the stairs to the basement and sees his family for the first time, even after we all know that he got busted. And CNN, they never said anything about it. They just continued on. And to put salt on the wound, they had that dramatic scene where he comes out from the basement, and it was supposed to be like the first time he came out from the basement. Thank you so much, Chris. Hope you all are having a great hump day. CNN needs to be shut down. Thank you, Chris. I agree. Well, maybe not shut down, but they need an overhaul. Nobody trusts them. And I brought up that Britney story as well, because those are very liberal people, and even they don't trust CNN. And I still, because I follow pop culture a lot of the channels that I follow are really liberal. I just follow for pop culture news, and they all know that CNN is fake, all of them. So it's not something that just the right calls out or people on the right call out. Everybody knows. No. Eva? Ow, sorry. Don't scratch. Okay. Do they hire a new CEO? It's still Zucker. Eva must rage. I know, Eva needs to go to a Travis Scott concert and rage. Rachel Maddow, Joy Reid, yellow journalist. Content creators. They're content creators. Hi, Nessie. CNN should be gone if they weren't being propped up financially. I think that's what it is. I don't know if it's they have so much money. CNN constantly calls Trump a cult leader, but they have cult leaders. Oh, yeah. It is what it is. But we'll see what happens with him. Right now, he's suspended. I'll be curious to see who is hosting his show tonight or who they replace him with. All right, so let's talk about Beverly Hills. This is very, very, man, I'm just going to tell you, like, Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, all of those areas, all these areas of Los Angeles that used to be, oh my goodness gracious. Eva? No. No, Eva, no. No. You know what? There we go. Okay. All of these areas, probably some liberal that's not even worse. Watch your feet. Just place Eva on your lap. She won't stay on my lap if I put her on my lap. Eva 2024. Eva, where is she? Oh, she's right there. Come here. All of these areas in Los Angeles, and we talked about, I think we talked about Waukesha, San Francisco a lot, Los Angeles, Portland, New York, like all of these areas that are super liberal that have hired, put her on your head. Oh my gosh, she weighs 15 pounds, people. She's a big cat, like a big cat, and she sleeps on my legs every night. Walkie. All of these areas that have super progressive DAs and all of these areas that have defunded their police are becoming so... Stop fat shaming Eva. Eva, you're just big boned. All these areas that have... She is big. Yeah, big kitty. Have super progressive DAs are getting so dangerous, and it's even getting in very gentrified, very well-to-do areas. And I bring this up because, and you know, a lot of people will say, don't politicize these crimes, don't politicize these issues. It very much is political, and that's why it's important to talk about. And I'll show you that right now. Earlier today, I saw a video of a woman in Hancock Park. That's a very nice neighborhood in Los Angeles. Used to be very safe. It was a woman with her baby stroller going for a walk. She came back. She actually lives in a gated home, which you're not even safe now if you live in a gated home, apparently. So she was taking her baby on a walk with her stroller. The gate to her home opened up, and before it could close again, this was all caught on surveillance. Before it closed, 2 criminals came in and robbed her right when her baby was right there, and then they left. And that video just came out I think that video just came out yesterday. And then this happened today. This is sad because we always talk about, all of these people. I'm going to make a connection here, but we always talk about, it's always the more elite, the wealthier people that want things like defund the police, and it's easy for them to say because they live in gated communities, they can afford private security, expensive security systems, and it's the people in the low income, high crime areas that hurt the most, which is still true, but it's getting so bad even now. If you live in a gated community, or if you live in Beverly Hills, which we're going to get back to, you're not even safe either. And now these crimes are starting to come to the front steps of the very people who are advocating for these policymakers, these politicians, and these policies. So this is really, really sad. Oh, and by the way, I go on my Citizen app. I've told you all, if you don't know what the Citizen app is, not every city has it, but Los Angeles has it. And I'll put in my old address sometimes just to see what's happening with the crime. The amount of robberies that happen in broad daylight is just, it's exploded. And it seems like it's exploded even more within the past 2 weeks. There was just a really unfortunate, we talked about it on this channel, there was a shooting. It was at 2 o'clock in the morning outside of a restaurant. There was an attempted robbery on a young girl, and a man tried to protect her, and he was fatally shot. So that just happened the other week in West Hollywood, which is right next to Beverly Hills. But wife of famed music exec Clarence Avant, I think that's how you say his name, shot and passed away in her Beverly Hills home. It's just called a Citizen, the app. Yeah, it's called the Citizen app. It seems there's no laws in California. I know, and you get so used to it. It really is like anarchy. When I drive around Virginia, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to go the speed limit. Oh yeah, I need to actually follow traffic laws because it's, even when you're driving, it's like anarchy. It really is. It's scary. Jacqueline Avant, the wife of famed music executive Clarence Avant, was shot and passed away in an apparent home invasion. Oh, thank you so much, Lance. Did you see the video of LAPD? Oh, hold on, let me see that. Did you see the video of LAPD SWAT slotting that dude who broke into the woman's apartment and took her hostage? Gnarly stuff. Glad I left California. No, I didn't see that. So this happened Wednesday, like in the middle of the week. Early Wednesday morning, police responded to about 2 a.m. to the home of 1100 block in the Truesdale Estates neighborhood. So this is a really nice neighborhood in Beverly Hills. A Netflix, so here's where the connection is made. A Netflix spokesperson confirmed to NBC News that Jacqueline Avant was killed early Wednesday. The couple's daughter, Nicole Avant, is married to Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos. No arrests were reported early Wednesday morning. The victim suffered a gunshot wound and then passed at the hospital. Investigators are working on it. There's you can't see it in here, but there was a picture of it, an aerial picture where you could see they busted into her place via it looked like a sliding glass door. SWAT or police teams need to be stationed inside schools already. Oh my gosh, yeah, that Michigan story is really, really awful. I can talk about that in a minute if you want to. But yeah, this is a really big, so he's known, Clarence Avant, her husband, is known as the godfather of black music and has been regularly celebrated by artists such as Jay-Z and Diddy, L.A. Reid, and Babyface. He began as a talent manager in the 1950s, worked at Ventura Records in Southern California, and founded LA-based Success Records and Avant-Garde Broadcasting. He was indicted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in October. So I know a boatload of veterans who would be willing to and watch his school. Yeah. But here's what's really interesting. So Sarandos is a Netflix CEO. Well, the founder and who is also a CEO is Clarence Avant alive today? Let's see. I'm not sure, actually. I believe so. Let me see. Yes, he's alive. Wow, he's 90 years old. Really sad. It already has his spouse, 1967 to 2021. Seems like a really cool dude. But what's crazy is the other, I don't know how this works out. He's CEO, founder, Reed Hastings, so another CEO, let's see, LA County District Attorney race, who are the top donors? Reed Hastings. So he's the founder of Netflix, and he's named as CEO. I don't know what that means. So he actually donated $3 million to stop the recall of Gavin Newsom, and we know Gavin Newsom released 76,000 people from prison. He also donated to George Gascon, which George Gascon's policies are directly related to a lot of these increased burglaries and robberies and a lot of the violence that we're seeing. And you know what's really, really interesting? I was watching recently, I don't know if you guys ever watch PragerU. I was watching Will Witt on PragerU. He's super young and has a podcast. Him and his co-host actually went and did a ride-along with police officers in LA. So they went to Compton, like one of the worst neighborhoods, and they were learning all about the sort of the gang activity and what happens in that area. And it's really sad. And they basically say that certain gangs will basically have control over certain areas, right? And something that he said that stuck out to me was that they were in one particular area where a branch of the Bloods like sort of just had control over these streets, right? And the interesting thing about that is he said the Netflix is not worth supporting, right? What was interesting about that was he said, now a lot of these gang members that control these streets, they actually don't live in this neighborhood. So they're not residents of this neighborhood, but they take control of the streets to the point where sometimes people are afraid to come out of their houses at night. And he even said, and this area was, the residents that actually lived in this area were largely Hispanic. And he said that some of these individuals, like, they're so scared of this gang that if they're trying to go to work and, for example, maybe a gang member, their car is blocking their car and they can't get out of the parking lot or they can't get out of the driveway, instead of asking that person to move their car, they'll just call into work. But what stuck to me was the fact that the people that control those streets aren't even from that neighborhood. And what's really scary is what you see happening in these areas now in Los Angeles are a lot of these are gang members too, and they're coming to these neighborhoods and robbing and terrorizing people, and they do not live in those neighborhoods. So it's almost, I don't know if you've ever lived in a city that grows, but things grow with the city, and it's almost like this is the beginning of the stages of a lot of these gangs starting to control streets, if that makes sense. In some of these areas where they never had control, like they're getting more and more and more emboldened, and they're so emboldened now they're in Beverly Hills. And the thing about the Beverly Hills cops do not play at all. So the fact that they feel so emboldened now to just do things in broad daylight in Beverly Hills, I know this happened at 2 a.m., but you're even having robberies in broad daylight. It's wild. And I hope they get control over it. I really do. I think everything is fixable, but I don't know how bad it's going to get, or I don't know how long it's going to take to be able to fix something. This is just there's a lot going on. Like I said, it was the 76,000 prisoners that were let out. You know, the defunding of the police, George Gascon getting elected and having zero cash bail and not prosecuting low-level crimes and things like that. It's pretty wild. Hi, Stefan. So that's Los Angeles. Yeah, and I don't know, I'm telling you, I don't know what happened, but it really does seem like the past few weeks, it's crime, it was already exploding, but it just exploded. It's like 2.0 the past few weeks. Zero cash bail is another CRT idea. Yeah, what's interesting about George Gascon is, so that was on our ballot for the state of California, zero cash bail. And the voters in the state of California rejected that. They voted no. So that didn't pass on the state level. And then George Gascon gets elected to LA County, and his first day in, he introduces zero cash bail, even though the voters voted against that as for California as a whole. Okay, this is pretty funny. So this is not a very smart individual, I don't think. Is Abrams backed by Soros? I don't know. Gascon is, and so is Chesa Boudin. Chesa Boudin in San Francisco, and so was the DA in Wisconsin. Hold on, I'm going to check. Abrams backed by Soros. And I don't know, let me know what you think about this. Yes, Abrams is backed by Soros. Hi, Steve. Eva, don't. No. I will throw my slipper at you. Where is it? Eva, stop. No. Jeez, Louise. Gascon sounds like that Disney villain. That's one of my favorite Disney villains is Gascon. Gascon. Even rage against the flops. Okay, Democrat cities. Gaston. Oh, yes, Gaston. You mean Gaston. Yes, that was Gaston. Eva, I'm about to throw this slipper at you. Oh my gosh, I can't pick it up. Don't be throwing slippers at Eva. I just throw them near her. I need her spray bottle is what I need. Oh, someone asked about all the athletes collapsing on the field. Yeah, I've been hearing about that. I haven't. Throwing slippers triggers childhood memories. Boomerang slippers. I only have one more left. Oh, you know what else? Sarah, did you see Lori Lightfoot only wants to interview, yes, only wants to interview Black journalists. Yes, she got called out for that. Eva, no. 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 I didn't even go anywhere near her. They say it's the jab. It could be. I mean, that's the really scary. I told you all I got the booster yesterday. I had just about every side effect you could possibly have. And it like hit me all at the same time. I'm still tired from it. But I mean, that's the thing about it. I knowingly took the risk by getting it because of my family members. But I mean, that's the truth of the matter. You don't know the long-term effects on it or what the effects on a healthy person, especially if you're exerting yourself like athletes. And what's really alarming is they don't let us have these conversations. You know, they censor all the conversations, which makes you not trust things even more. I was going to say, before I get to Jussie Smullet, somebody was asking me about the, I'm afraid of it. I already had cancer. Sorry to hear that's how do you feel now? Oh, I feel fine now. I got it at like 1 p.m. yesterday, and I was fine. I went shopping, went to lunch, and was totally fine. And then like around like 6 p.m., it just hit me all at once. I just got like, and I literally looked at the list of side effects. I had every single one. I just got like really dizzy. My skin felt really tingly. I was like, my arms especially just felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. It was not fun. But I've done that with CNN dumped Frito. Woohoo! All right, let's talk about Jussie Smollett. This person is not very smart. Did you see Republican senators are saying they will delay the CR for government if the Biden mandate's now defunct? No one puts Eva in the corner. No, I didn't see that. I got the J&J, and the reason I got it is because I was taking care of family members. So 2 family members have like chronic illness that's in the lungs. Like one family member, the lung function is 36%, which is like really low, and I was taking care of them. So because it's centralized around the lung. And then I also have another family member who's actually going to be staying in Boston now, but there's another family member that, and I love her, she's my favorite, but she's 92 years old, and I go and we call it grandma sit, so I go and grandma sit her sometimes, but I won't be now because she's actually going to spend the winter in Boston, but that's why, and that's kind of the only reason, but I did the J&J. Oh, it's okay. It's, you know what, it's life. It happens. People are healthy sometimes and they're sick sometimes, and it's just life. Thank you, Steve. Okay, Jussie Smollett. Oh, before I get to that, somebody was asking me, and I read this recently, so they were asking me about my mom is dating a 92-year-old and he's still active, if you know what I mean. Good for him. Good for him. Is your mom much younger? Somebody was asking me about the Wnba salary. So the list of salaries just got released. I need that J&J booster, was trying to decide when. That's what I got. And my mom got the same one. My stepdad got the same one. They were totally fine. They had zero side effects. I'm the one that had side effects. So all these salaries got released for the NBA and the WNBA, and it showed that the NBA players made a lot more. My mom is 65. It's kind of creepy if you ask. He's like 27 years older than her. I don't think it's that creepy. I mean, you're old enough to where WNBA, they still exist. That's the point I was making. So there's more, like a little bit of controversy because the salaries got released. And it did show that NBA players made a lot more than WNBA players. So I'm thinking, so I look at that, and honestly, I didn't even have to read the article. All I'll say is, do you know anyone that watched, and I'm not knocking the WNBA players, but more people watch the NBA, so it makes sense that they would make more money. I don't know a single person who watches the WNBA. I don't know anyone that watches them. So I don't know. I think that's like making something out of nothing, and the more ratings you get, the more money you bring in, the more merch you sell, the more you are valued. NBA game brings so much more revenue. Yeah. Oh yeah, they are losing money with them. Yeah, I mean, and you know what? That's just life. When you pull in more money, you make more money. I mean, not everything is going to be equitable in the beginning, but that's life. And they probably still make a pretty good salary, I'm guessing. Okay, well, let's do this really quick because I thought this was kind of funny. But there's certain sports that I would much rather watch women compete in than men. I'm trying to think at what those are right now. Gymnastics? Yeah, like I don't watch men's gymnastics during, I never even watched gymnastics. During the Olympics I do, but I've never had any interest in watching men's gymnastics, but I'll watch women's gymnastics. So there's one where, I don't know. Okay, so the Jussie Smollett case is still going on. And there was a new video that was released today, and you're not going to believe this. Okay, so embattled Empire actor, I can't say his name right because I say it wrong jokingly so much. Women's soccer, rowing team. I like women's mixed martial arts. I actually like women MMA better than men's MMA also. These people are not very smart. So embattled Empire actor Jussie Smollett was caught on surveillance video footage doing a dry run one day before his alleged hate crime attack, prosecutors said at his trial on Tuesday. If you were going to do a dry run, maybe make sure there's no cameras. Prosecutors contend the footage confirms the actor faked the January 29, 2019 alleged attack with Nigerian brothers who are expected to be key witnesses for the prosecution in the case. Smollett's lawyers claim the actor was really attacked by the two brothers. Prosecutors poked a hole in that claim Tuesday, revealing a text message sent by Smollet to one of the siblings a couple of weeks after the alleged attack. Brother, I love you. The text message said, brother, I love you. Oh my gosh, I'm actually reading this with you. So the text message said, brother, I love you. I stand with you. I know 1000% you and your brother did nothing wrong and never would. Okay, I am making this statement so everyone else knows, the text said. They will not get away with this. Please hit me. Please hit me when they let you go. I am behind you fully. The text came as the two brothers were being questioned in the case. To this day, Mr. Smollett has never come clean about this crime. They also said Smollett was not forthcoming with the investigation after he reported that he was attacked. Okay, so they have video footage of him doing a practice session. Wow. So this will be interesting. But that case started on Monday as well. So this is another one that I'm keeping up with. The verdict on this will be very interesting. Oh, shoot. The surveillance footage shows Smollett walking near the scene with the brothers a day earlier, with the siblings seen taking a cab to a nearby neighborhood. The two then switched to an Uber and met up with Smollett, and Special Prosecutor Dan Webb told jurors during the proceedings. Prosecutors contend that Smollett paid the siblings $3,500 to help the alleged hoax. So there's that. Now that's new evidence. I didn't know that evidence was there. So he paid them by check, which wasn't very smart either. I wanted to read, that reminds me, I thought this was a fun fact, but let me see if I can find it. Speaking of paying by check, where is it? Pablo Picasso, is he in here? So I have this book. I know it's a really weird book, but it's called Famous Last Words. And it's just, it has a lot of people like Pablo Picasso, Socrates, Ulysses S. Grant, all these people, Robert E. Lee, and it has like things that they said before they passed away. And we were talking about a check, and there was something really, here it is. Okay, so Pablo Picasso, you know, the painter, apparently one of his last phrases was "drink to me," And here's a little, but it has like last phrases and then it has a fun fact about them. And it says, what would you expect from one of the world's most egotistical talents, but to command to be toasted on his demise in 1973 at the age of 91? The brilliant Spanish artist unflaggingly, did I say that right? Unflaggingly, can't read that one. So it says he was fond of paying people by check. So whenever he would pay people, he would pay them by check, knowing that his creditors usually preferred keeping his valuable autograph to cashing it. How funny is that? Is that by Cuomo? No, it's not by Cuomo. I found this obscure bookstore that had all these like crazy books. But he would pay people by check, knowing that they would much rather have his autograph and they wouldn't actually go cash it. Isn't that so funny? I think that's pretty funny. All right, well, that's everything I have for you all. Have a really good day. I liked it. Okay, you all, I will see you probably tomorrow. Later, everyone. All right, bye, you all. Wish they found the Fountain of Youth. I know I'm looking for it in here. I don't think it's in here. A short, sweet stream. Bye. Okay, bye, everybody. These are funny. Maybe I'll read more next time. Okay, bye, you all. Thank you, Morris. I'll see you later. Thank you, Sarah. Have a great night. Thank you, Steve. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye.